Clapperboard Part 1, The Bread and the Silence, expanded. Opening scene, Brooklyn Courthouse. Bitter cold. Snowflakes swirl against the gray sky. Sirens in the distance. A man in tattered clothes shuffles between the concrete giants. Mr. Truong, soft, solemn voice. Sometimes. Justice wears robes. Sometimes. It wears nothing but old boots and forgotten dog tags. Visual, Walter Grady, a ghost of the man he once was, is led into the courtroom. His coat hangs off him like a burden. His hands tremble from cold and hunger. Mr. Truong. 3 days without food. 1 loaf of bread. That's all it took to bring him here. Scene, prosecutor stands. Polished. Detached. Prosecutor, monotonous. The defendant was apprehended stealing from Morelli's market. Prior incidents. No fixed address. Recommending detention. Walter bows his head. No defense. No anger. Only shame. Walter, whisper, almost inaudible. I just needed strength. To live. 1 more day. Courtroom chuckles. Someone mutters, another bum. Judge Carmichael flips the file open, bored, disinterested, until Mr. Truong. A name. A lifeline thrown across decades. Walter Edward Grady. Close-up, judge's fingers tightening around the paper. His throat working as he swallows. Slow motion, the judge rises to his feet. The room freezes. Mr. Truong, low, intense. Because some names aren't just names. They're debts. Left unpaid for far too long. Asterisk, fade out with a slow, echoing heartbeat. Glowing star end of expanded Part 1. Clapperboard Part 2, The Soldier They Forgot, expanded. Opening scene, a dusty battlefield. The American flag ripples under a searing sun. Explosions thud in the distance. Mr. Truong, steady, reverent voice. Before he wore rags. He wore armor. Before he stood in a courtroom. He stood between life and death. Flashback, young Staff Sergeant Walter Grady, strong and sharp-eyed, shouting orders amidst the chaos of a supply convoy ambush in Iraq. Bullets slicing the air. Trucks ablaze. Soldiers screaming. Mr. Truong. When others ran for cover. Walter ran toward the fire. Scene, Walter gripping the wheel of a burning truck, driving it away from wounded comrades, his face grim with determination. Shrapnel tears into his leg, but he doesn't stop. Mr. Truong. 17 men and women lived. Because one man refused to leave them behind. Scene, months later. Medal ceremony. Bronze star pinned to Walter's chest. A photographer snapping the famous shot of Walter carrying an Afghan child to safety. Applause, handshakes, promises of, we will never forget. Mr. Truong, voice bittersweet. Promises are cheap. When the war moves on. Transition scene, Walter back home. A small apartment. A woman waiting by the window, Margaret. Visual, their hands finding each other across a kitchen table. Mr. Truong, gentle smile. Not every battle wears camouflage. Some are fought in hospital rooms. Against enemies you can't see. Scene, Margaret coughing, clutching her side. VA doctors dismissing her symptoms. Just stress, just fatigue. Mr. Truong. They called it anxiety. They called it nothing. Until it became everything. Scene, Margaret's funeral. Rain beating down. Walter standing alone, soaking wet, fists clenched at his sides. No folded flag this time. No ceremony. No heroes. Mr. Truong, quiet, breaking voice. She was his anchor. And when she slipped away, so did he. Scene, Walter selling their apartment. Donating the money to Margaret's favorite charity. Packing nothing but a faded photo and a pair of dog tags. He vanishes into the maze of New York City, becoming another nameless ghost on the sidewalks. Mr. Truong, low, heavy. Some fall in battle. Some fall afterward. And those wounds are harder to see. Asterisk, montage, Walter surviving quietly. Collecting bottles. Sleeping in doorways. Enduring insults from strangers. Clutching Margaret's photo at night like a lifeline. Asterisk. Mr. Truong. He never begged. He never stole. Until hunger made survival an act of quiet defiance. Scene, a cold November evening. Walter staring at the bread behind Morelli's counter. His stomach cramping with emptiness. His pride dying a little with each frozen breath. Mr. Truong, soft, almost whispering. 3 days without food. And all he asked for was the strength to see one more sunrise. Final shot of part 2, Walter slipping the loaf of bread into his jacket, not out of greed, but out of sheer, desperate will to live. Asterisk, fade out with the sound of a heartbeat. Faint. Fading. Holding on. Glowing star end of expanded part 2. Clapperboard part 3, the name that froze the room, expanded. Opening scene, the courtroom. Stiff, sterile. The hum of fluorescent lights. The shuffle of papers. The clack of typing from a bored stenographer. Mr. Truong, low, steady voice. To the world. He was just another case number. Just another failure. On a long, dusty list. Visual, Judge Carmichael adjusting his glasses, flipping lazily through Walter's thin case file. Yawns from the gallery. No one cares. No one sees. Camera close-up, Judge's hand freezes mid-page. His breath catches almost imperceptibly. Mr. Truong, sharpening tone. But sometimes a name isn't just a name. It's a memory. Sharper than any knife. Judge Carmichael's eyes widen. He reads again. Slower this time. Judge Carmichael, whispering to himself. Walter Edward Grady. Staff Sergeant. Bronze Star for Valor. Asterisk, flashback slices in. A burning truck. gunfire tearing the air. A medic, young Carmichael, bleeding on the ground. A soldier lifting him under heavy fire, shouting only one word, Grady. Asterisk. Back to the courtroom, the judge's hand trembles slightly. His face hardens, not in anger, but in stunned realization. Without a word, Judge Carmichael stands, slow, deliberate, shaking the very foundation of the courtroom. Mr. Truong, building tension, voice dropping to a whisper. Judges do not stand. Not for petty thieves. But sometimes. They stand. For ghosts who once carried them to safety. The entire courtroom freezes. Papers midair. Pens paused mid-word. Breaths held. The prosecutor glances up, confused. The bailiff straightens. Journalists lower their phones instinctively. Mr. Truong. In a room built on judgment. Silence. Became the loudest sound of all. Scene, Judge Carmichael clearing his throat roughly. Judge Carmichael, hoarse, emotional. Court. Will recess. 15 minutes. He exits swiftly, not from authority, but from overwhelming emotion. The gallery explodes in whispers. Some trying to piece together what just happened. Others instinctively sensing, something monumental is unfolding. Scene shift, Judge Carmichael alone in his chambers. Fumbling through an old wooden drawer. Finding a photo, cracked, worn from years of hope and regret. Visual, a young soldier carrying a wounded man through fire and chaos. A blurry dog tag glinting, Grady. Mr. Truong, voice thick with emotion. He searched for years. For the man who didn't let him die. Never finding him. Never knowing. He had been sleeping outside the courthouse. All along. Scene, Judge Carmichael pounding search queries into his laptop. Military databases. VA files. Asterisk, Walter Grady's full record flashes onto the screen. 3 tours. Multiple commendations. Administrative error, pension lost. Current status, homeless. Asterisk. Mr. Truong, quiet, heartbreaking. A country he bled for. Had forgotten to even keep his name. In the right place. Scene, Carmichael leans back in his chair, wiping his face. Hands shaking. Whispering to no one but the walls. Judge Carmichael, whispering, broken. I'm alive. Because of you. Scene, Walter, still sitting quietly in the courtroom, unaware of the tidal wave approaching. Other defendants shift uncomfortably, sensing that something about this old man was different. Mr. Truong, building momentum. The court thought it was judging a thief. It was about to realize. It was judging its own soul. Asterisk, fade out with a low, ominous hum, the weight of destiny tightening. Glowing star end of expanded part 3. Clapperboard part 4, honor in the court, expanded. Opening scene, 15 minutes later. The courtroom doors swing open. A hush falls like a blanket. The judge returns. But he is not alone. Behind him, in full dress uniform, walk 3 high-ranking military officers, crisp, solemn, immaculate. Mr. Truong, voice soft, rising with awe. Some salutes are given not with flags, but with silence, and standing tall. Visual, veterans in the gallery slowly rising, one by one. Civilians following, unsure at first, then realizing, something greater than law is entering. Walter, still shackled, looks around confused. His head down. Still not daring to believe the world could ever stand for him again. Mr. Truong. For 15 years. He walked through a world that looked past him. Today. They saw him. Seen, Judge Carmichael's voice, steady but heavy with restrained emotion. Judge Carmichael. Before we address the charges against Mr. Grady, this court will hear the truth. Colonel James Mason approaches the stand. His ribbons shining under the courtroom lights. He stands at attention, saluting Walter before speaking. Colonel Mason, clear, resonant. I am Colonel James Mason, United States Army. And I am alive. Because of the man standing before you. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Reporters scribble furiously. Cameras forbidden inside still click from outside windows. Asterisk, scene, Mason recounting. The convoy ambush. The burning fuel truck. Walter driving straight into enemy fire to save 17 lives. Walter carrying a wounded Private Michael Carmichael, now the judge, across 2 miles of desert, wounded himself. Asterisk. Mr. Truong, voice strong. Not just bravery. Not just sacrifice. But love. The kind of love warriors share when everything else is burning. Scene, Colonel Mason producing evidence, military files, medals, commendations. Walter's rightful pension lost due to a bureaucratic error. $246,000 in unpaid benefits. 15 years of stolen dignity. Scene, the prosecutor, now pale, stands. Prosecutor, quiet, humbled. Your Honor. The state moves to dismiss all charges. With prejudice. The judge nods firmly. Judge Carmichael. So ordered. Pause. Then the judge steps down from the bench, an unthinkable act. He approaches Walter directly. Judge Carmichael, voice breaking. You carried me. When I couldn't walk. You saved my life. When the world was burning. Today. I stand for you. Judge Carmichael removes the shackles from Walter's wrists himself. He stands back. And salutes. Mr. Truong, whispering, full of awe. Not the salute of a judge. The salute of a soldier. To his savior. One by one, every person in uniform in the room, salutes. Veterans. Lawyers. Even civilians clutching their hearts. Scene, Walter stands frozen, disbelief carved into every line of his worn face. Tears fill his eyes, not of weakness, but of long-awaited recognition. Mr. Truong. It wasn't pity he needed. It was remembrance. And that day. The world remembered. Visual, Walter's niece, Rebecca, pushing through the crowd. Reaching for him. Tears streaming. Rebecca, sobbing. Uncle Walter. We never stopped looking. Walter folds into her embrace, the courtroom around them still standing, still silent, still honoring. Mr. Truong, soft closing for part 4. For years, he carried a broken heart through broken streets. Today, they carried him, with their hearts wide open. Asterisk, fade out slowly. Sound of heartbeats slowing, from pain to peace. Glowing star end of expanded part 4. Clapperboard part 5, the man who would not be forgotten, expanded. Opening scene, 6 months later. A soft spring breeze stirs the American flags along the streets of Brooklyn. Sunshine paints golden lines across a small newly built complex, Veterans Village. Mr. Truong, voice gentle, hopeful. They say time heals all wounds. They lie. Some wounds never close. But some are carried with pride. Scene, Walter unlocking the door to a small, neat apartment. A home. His first real home in 15 years. Asterisk, inside, sparse furniture, but on one wall, a collage of photographs. Margaret on their wedding day. His unit in Iraq. A new photo, Walter with Judge Carmichael at a veterans ceremony. Asterisk. Mr. Truong. It wasn't the furniture that made it a home. It was the memories. And the ones he could finally allow himself to make again. Scene, Walter walking through Prospect Park, a light jacket on. He sits on a bench, the same bench he once slept under, now just a place to watch children play. Mr. Truong. Once, he hid from the world here. Now, he watches it grow. Scene, Walter visiting local schools. Speaking softly to wide-eyed teenagers about courage, loss, and quiet perseverance. Walter, softly. Don't judge people by what they wear. Some people wear memories, not brands. Scene, the Brooklyn courthouse. A ceremony underway. A bronze plaque being unveiled. Relief sculpture of Walter carrying a wounded medic through chaos, under the words. Justice is remembering those who were once forgotten. Mr. Truong, proud, emotional. He never asked for statues. He never wanted medals. Just this. To be seen. One last time. Scene, inside City Hall. Legislators passing a new bill, the Grady Initiative, a fund to provide legal help for homeless veterans. Asterisk, scene, media coverage flashes. Veterans coming forward. Lost benefits being restored. Forgotten names written back into the story of a nation. Asterisk. Mr. Truong. Because one man chose dignity, even when the world forgot his name. Scene, Veterans Day. Walter in full dress uniform. Straight-backed. Eyes clear. He stands before a microphone, facing a sea of young soldiers and old veterans. Walter, voice firm, ringing out. I once protected this country. And now, this country has protected me back. The crowd surges to its feet in roaring applause. Salutes flashing like a field of white sails. Walter smiles, truly, openly, for the first time in years. Mr. Truong, whispering, soft close. Not every battle ends with a parade. Some victories are quieter, but no less real. Final scene. Walter walking slowly into the sunlight. A folded American flag cradled under one arm. The camera pans up to the sky, brilliant and endless. On-screen text. One life remembered is 1,000 lives saved. Mr. Truong, closing words. If you believe that kindness delayed is still kindness worth giving, share Walter's story. Let no one who served ever be forgotten again. Asterisk, fade to black. Soft echo of a heartbeat.